Hey everyone, welcome to day 13 of the 40-day fast. As always, thank you so much, guys, for your prayers, for your encouragement, for your shares. Continue to share with your friends and tell them to share with their friends. Guys, I thank you so much for your support. Over these past days, we're on day 13, so we're into this. We're almost on the downward spiral. We're almost there. Day 13, 13 of 40. So we have what? About 27 more days to go. 27 more days to go in this process. I want to thank you all for joining. Thank you for participating. I thank God for everything that's happening. And one of the things that's happening is this is changing my heart. And so my prayer is that it is doing the same thing in your lives as well. Well, as always, remember to send your prayer requests, your praise reports, your testimonies. Email those over to 40days@CynthiaMcClary.com. Listen, we want to pray with you. We want to rejoice with you. We want to encourage you. We want to celebrate with you guys. So remember to send your prayer requests and your praise reports or your testimonies, of what God is doing. And remember, victory is victory. It doesn't matter how large it is or how small it may seem to you. Victory is victory, and every victory is a worthwhile victory. That means progress. That means progress. And so send your emails over to 40days@CynthiaMcClary.com. Now, I sit here today and I don't want to say I'm perplexed, but I am a bit perplexed. But nevertheless, we're going to get through this process. We're going to make it through this process. This morning, the word that came to me was forgiveness. Forgiveness. And the fact of the matter of how we so lightly take forgiveness in our own personal relationships. We want to be forgiven. We want our spouse to forgive us. We want our children to forgive us, our co-workers. We want other people to forgive us. But oftentimes when it comes to us forgiving other people, it's not always that easy. There's a common saying that has, picked up a little bit of spark, I'm going to say. And that saying is, I will forgive you, but I will not forget. I'll forgive you, but I won't forget. And the sad part of that is, sometimes people who know better actually say things like that. Will say something like that. I'll forgive, but I will not forget. And there are so many reasons why we say, I'll forgive, but I won't forget. Sometimes we do it as a way to protect ourselves from being hurt. We do it as a way of protecting ourselves from being hurt. But the truth of the matter is, as long as you hold on to unforgiveness, unforgiveness holds on to you. And unforgiveness blocks and stops every bit of progress in your life. And while it may not seem as if you're holding on to unforgiveness, if you operate under the mode of, I will forgive, but I won't forget, everything that you remember is tied to you or ties itself to you. Everything in a situation in which you are to forgive, everything that you remember ties itself to you. And that thought or those thoughts are used as ammunitions in your own life to set you off course, of what God has already ordained for you. So those instant replays, where do you think the enemy gets the weapon of the instant replay from? He gets it from us because we have developed this I will forgive but not forget mentality. And so as long as we're holding on to that thing, as long as we're holding on to the memory, as long as we're holding on to that thread that connects us to whatever situation it was, we give the enemy the weapon to use to continuously play that thought over in our mind, to continuously hold us back from giving our whole selves over to someone else, and to ultimately hold us right where we are. And if you're held right where you are, that means that you can't go any farther. You know, when I was in school, we learned about Maslow, and with Maslow, he had this conditioning principle, and with it, there was this dog, and you know, he would ring the bell, and anyway, the dog responded to the stimuli, which was the bell. And no matter how far that dog, you know, that dog might run away for a while or run a distance, but there was something always to jerk that dog back. Well, that's exactly what the enemy does, or that's exactly what you allow. Because the enemy only has the power that you give him. If you allow him to do it, then he's going to do it. It's the same way that we talked the other day about inviting, you know, sending out an email, sending out an invitation, inviting the enemy into our lives. Well, that's exactly what we do when we choose not to totally forgive, when we choose to hang hold to that memory, when we choose to forgive but not forget. And it does not prosper us at all. It looks like we're prospering, but that's only, again, temporary. It's only for a temporary time. And so what happens in our relationships, in our marriage, what happens in our marriage is someone has done something. Our spouse has done something. And in some cases, we're the person who has done something. But anyway, someone has done something. And instead of forgiving them completely, totally, we hang hold to that memory. And sometimes we take the attitude of, well, I'm going to get you, I'm going to hurt you, or I'm going to get you before you get me. You know, I'll forgive you, but I'm not going to forget the situation because this might happen again. I'll forgive you, but I won't forget the situation because it may happen again. And you know that saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you, or I may have that vice versa. But my point here is we've got to let it go. We've got to let it go. If we hold on to it, all we're doing is holding ourselves back. We will make progress for a moment, and as soon as a similar instance comes, or as soon as a situation comes up that triggers that memory, then we're going to retreat backwards instead of moving forward in progress. Why? All because we have chosen to not forgive completely. Do you understand that when you forgive but not forget, you haven't forgiven at all? You haven't forgiven at all, because anytime you can recall that memory and that memory brings back a bitterness, or that memory triggers a negative feeling in you, you have not forgiven. You have not forgiven. And what does the Bible tell us about forgiveness? What does the Word of God tells us about forgiveness? Now, we are to forgive our brother, our sister, our mother, our dad, our husband, our wife, our children, whoever it is. We are to forgive them in the same manner that Christ forgives us. The same way that God forgives us, that is the way that we are to forgive others, regardless as to what it is that they have done. That is how we're supposed to forgive them. I'll forgive, but I won't forget. I won't forget how you broke my heart. I won't forget how you did not meet my need. I will not forget how you let my expectations just fall to the ground. That is not forgiveness. That is not forgiveness. You cannot have true forgiveness without forgetting it. God says, when I forgive you, I forget it. When I forgive you, I forget it. And I move forward from that point as if nothing ever happened. I move forward from that point as if you never sinned, as if you never broke my heart, as if you never disobeyed me, as if you had always did only the things that were pleasing to me, only the things that were right. Now that's how God deals with us. Now, are we God? No, we are not God. We're not God. We're not perfect. And we all know that. We're not God and we're not perfect. And no one's asking us to be perfect. But when we begin to change the principles of God to fit our situation, or to fit our lifestyle, or to make us more comfortable, then there's no wonder why our lives are in the place that they are. We can't change what God has already set out, what God has already instructed to fit us. God says, when I forgive you, not only do I forget, not only do I forget about it, but I forget about it so much that the distance between me remembering what you did is as far as the heaven is from the earth. As far as the east is from the west, God says, that's how much I forgive you. And I forget about it. I throw it into the sea of forgetfulness. But we have decided, well, see, I can't do that. Who ordained strength in you? And if he ordained strength in you, whatever it is that he's asking you to do, whatever it is that he has told you to do, it is because he knows that you have the ability to do it. And it's not about having ability. It is about choice. It's about choice. And we have been choosing the wrong thing. We have been choosing the wrong thing. We have got to begin to live up to the standard of who we really are. And remember, we talked earlier about calling things just what they are. And that's what God is doing right now. He's calling things just like they are. How do you expect to move forward, to make progress, but you're holding on to yesterday? It is impossible for you to live in today, to walk into tomorrow, and hold on to yesterday. It's impossible to do that. But that is what we do every single time we make the disobedient decision to forgive, but not to forget. And so that causes us to respond to people in ways that's not always becoming. Well, I remember this person did. Yes, you remember it because you haven't forgiven them. That's why you bring it back up. And not only are you bringing it back up, but the enemy is encouraging you to bring it back up. You see situations happen, or you hear about situations happen, and that's where your mind goes. God says we've got to forgive, and we've got to forgive completely. We've got to forgive, and we've got to forgive completely. And this is how you know that what you are doing is wrong. Now, you know it's wrong when you want one standard for yourself, but another standard for everybody else. See, I want to be forgiven completely. But if I don't use that same measure of forgiveness to forgive somebody else that has harmed me, that has hurt me, that has done something to me, then I know that I'm wrong. There is nothing that makes me eligible or better qualified for the type of forgiveness that God renders to me and disqualifies someone else. No. And so we have got to come to the place where we are totally forgiving. We are totally forgiven, not forgetting, but we are forgiving. We are forgiving as if nothing ever happened. Because as long as that memory of the incident is still hot and is still recalled in your life, you have chosen to link yourself not with the future, not with progress, not with where God is taking you, but you have chosen to settle in the past. You've chosen to settle in the past, to live in the past. And what's behind you? What is behind you so that you long, that you desire more than what is in front of you? What is it so that's behind you? That you desire what is behind you more than you desire what is in front of you. If you don't let it go, your life is always going to be like that dog who is on a chain. And the dog doesn't realize how far he's able to run. He doesn't realize how much chain he has. And he takes out and he starts running. And he gets up a speed and he's running, chasing after whatever it is that he's chasing after. And as soon as he gets a piece down the road or down the way, the chain jerks him back violently. We have a choice. Everything about our life is about choices. It's about choices. And now, yes, I'm talking to the ones who need to forgive completely. I'm talking to the ones who need to forgive. But I'm also talking to the ones who have been forgiven. If you have been forgiven, forgiveness is not an excuse and it is not a tool for you to continuously repeat the things that you're always being forgiven for. God's grace, His mercy, it never runs out. But just because His grace is always available and just because His grace is in abundant supply, it does not mean that we sin more just so that His grace covers us. That's not the purpose of His grace. Each of us have been forgiven much. And the Word of God says, to whom much is given, much is required. Now, if God began to forgive us in the manner that we have chosen to forgive others, how would you feel about that? If God says, yes, I'm going to forgive you, but I'm not going to forget. Oh, I'm going to forgive you, but I'm not going to forget. I'm not going to forget how you lied. I'm not going to forget how you cheated, how you stole. I'm not going to forget how you murdered. I'm not going to forget nothing. I'll forgive you, but I'm not going to forget. Oh, I'll love you, but I'm not going to forget what you did. You know, it's almost like that movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm going to keep reminding you, yeah, oh, see, I know what you did. Do you know that love does not keep a record of wrong? Unforgiveness does. Unforgiveness does. It always does. It always does. And it will use the most convenient moment to remind you of your wrong. It will use the most convenient and sometimes inconvenient moments to remind you of your wrong. See, it's okay for God to forgive us and forgive us fully and forget what it is that we have done and treat us as if nothing has ever happened. See, it's okay for God to do that for us. But when it comes to our spouses, when it comes to our family, when it comes to our marriage, when it comes to our lives and the people in our lives, what? The same grace that has been shown to us, they don't deserve that same grace? Oh, they deserve it. And we have the power to extend that same measure of grace to them. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. You know, so there are so many marriages, so many families that have been touched by, and that's probably not the best word, but there are so many marriages and so many families that have dealt with situations that seem unforgivable. That seems unpardonable. But forgiveness is never about the other person. Forgiveness is not about the person who has wronged you. It's not about the person who has sinned. It's not about the person who has messed up. Your forgiveness does not free them. Your forgiveness frees you. Total forgiveness. It frees you. See, now it's okay for the world to forgive and forget. But that's not the standard that we live by. And that's not the standard that we should accept in our homes. It's not the standard we should accept in our families. And it's not the standard that we should accept in our lives. Anyone who recognizes how much God has forgiven them, no matter what walk of life they're in, where they're from, etc., etc. If you recognize how much God has forgiven you, that same forgiveness that you have been shown is the same forgiveness that you must show. If we're going to move forward, then we've got to let go of yesterday. We've got to forget about it. We've got to let it go. Holding on to yesterday, holding on to unforgiveness, it only keeps us right where we are, not making progress, not moving forward. So I challenge you today that you will search your own hearts. Husbands, if there is anything that you're holding on, that you're blaming your wife for, and she's already asked for your forgiveness, you may be struggling with forgiveness because it may have been a deep hurt. And wives, if there is anything, and I mean anything, that you're still holding on to, and even if your husband has not asked for forgiveness, I challenge you to forgive him. And every part of you that still struggles with forgetting, God says, cast every single care on me. Because there are a lot of things that we were not built, that we were not even meant to carry. And unforgiveness is one of them. Don't hold on to it. Don't hold on to it. Let it go. Ask God to come in and be your strength, to help you let it go. Sometimes God has to pry our hands off of a thing. Sometimes he has to come in and pry our hands off of a thing because we don't have the strength within ourselves to move our hands from that thing. And as much as that thing hurts, sometimes we hold on to it almost like it's a security blanket. So it becomes a part of who we are. It becomes a part of the fabric of who we are. And that's how we begin to know ourselves. As this person who is clinging hold to this memory, not letting it go, even though it hurts to hold it. We're not strong enough to let it go, but God. Give it to God and let God do in your heart what needs to be done so that the grip and the pain of your past no longer has a hold on you. No longer has a hold on you. And let him work in you and through you until there is no residue within you of that thing. We don't have to look like the situations that we are in, that we've been through. We don't have to smell like those situations. We don't have to talk like those situations. We don't have to see like those situations. But the only way to do that is to let it go. Let God do the work in your heart that needs to be done. It's your heart that God is concerned about. Your heart that he's concerned about. And when you let him come in and do in your heart what needs to be done so that you can not only live in today, but when the day changes over into tomorrow, you'll be able to live in tomorrow and not look back on yesterday. You'll be able to live your life looking forward and not being bound by anything in your past. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgive and forget. Guys, I love you. I will see you all tomorrow on day 14. Good night.